Today's event has evinced a huge interest, as evidenced through Twitter and Facebook. Given the tremendous response from all over the globe, this event is being telecast live through the Titans Cup website set up by Bobby, as well as through indiatimes.com. For helping to take this event to the larger audience through the electronic medium, I must thank, amongst others, Rohit Bansal, Prashanto Roy, and Sanjay Sethi. This event is also going out live on Twitter, thanks to a young Stephanian, Yash Gandhi. A special heartfelt thanks to our corporate sponsors, Discovery Channel and Aircel, as also Hotel Moria, who have spared no effort in supporting the event. It was decided at the outset that the topic for this annual debate should be apolitical, but having national relevance. The theme of this year's debate: this House believes that democratic politics is impacting brand India, is, I believe, most relevant and appropriate. We have a distinguished panel of judges consisting of Mr. Fali Nariman, Mrs. Meera Shankar, and Mr. John Elliott. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I thank them for their presence here this evening. Representing St. Stephen's alumni and speaking against the motion are Mr. Mani Shankar Iyer, Member of Parliament, Theatre and Film personality Mr. Kabir Bedi, Member of Parliament Mr. Shashi Tharoor, and Mr. Vikram Chandra, CEO, NDTV. From across the road and speaking for the motion are Mr. Subramanian Swamy, Member of Parliament, Ambassador Hardeep Singh Puri, who has come specially for this event, Corporate Personality Mr. Deepak Verma, and Eminent Civil Servant Mrs. Tuk Tuk Ghosh Kumar. To moderate today's event and manage such a galaxy of heavyweight debaters, we have Mrs. Naina Lal Kidwai, CEO of HSBC, who has her task cut out for her. I now call upon her to take the stage and commence the proceedings.
So welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Titans Cup. I'm honored to be the moderator today, and I'm mindful of this onerous responsibility. You should have seen how hotly every second of what those 20 marks that are going to be given for timekeeping and how that was going to be assessed was being discussed by the group. And I'm mindful that this onerous responsibility rests on my shoulders, basically because I didn't go to Hindu, I didn't go to St. Stephen's, but indeed I went to the best college, LSR. I understand that the rivalry in debating is part of folklore associated with S.N. Mukherjee, the legendary principal of St. Stephen's, who returned from Oxbridge, determined to kickstart a dialogue of similar stature right here in Delhi, and so began the first debate between St. Stephen's and Hindu. And there were many memories about the Mukherjee Memorial, which were actually being shared by the panelists, and a lot of warmth around that event. Now, Hindu and St. Stephen's encounters have taken place not only in debate, but also, possibly even more memorably, on the cricket field. Both colleges have the distinction of producing test-level cricketers. It was during these cricket matches where sportsmanship and principled rivalry became legendary. Legend has it that the great Mr. Bose, the driving force behind Delhi University cricket right from the 30s to the 60s, advised a fielder that if a batsman's stroke eluded him and the ball went past him, the tradition of cricket required him to say, "Well played, sir," or "Good stroke, sir." And this tradition of applauding went beyond the cricket field. I hope that this tradition will be evident today. I'm sure you all have noted that the Hindu team has a member of the fairer sex, so let me too say, "Well played, sir." However, let me assure you that this in no way biases my loyalties. But tonight, it is winners of yesteryears, the ones from Hindu and St. Stephen's, the Titans, we have here on my left and my right, and we are eager to hear today. You are all a little wiser, hopefully a little less boisterous, a little grayer, but willing as ever, I am sure, to vanquish the opponent, not with your swords, but with the power of your titanic ideas. So, as we launch into the deliberations of the day, it is my privilege to introduce the judges who scarcely need introduction, but I shall go through this formality. Meera Shankar served as India's ambassador to the United States of America and returned to India a few months ago. She was India's second female ambassador to the USA, Vijay Lakshmi Nehru Pandit being the first. She has played a key role in boosting Indo-US relations that culminated with the visit of President Barack Obama to India. Mr. Fali Nariman needs no introduction. However, a distinguished Indian constitutional jurist, dare I say the most distinguished Indian constitutional jurist, and senior advocate of the Supreme Court of India since '71. He was president of the Bar Association of India since '91 and now its president emeritus. He resigned as Additional Solicitor General of India on 27 June 1975 as a protest against the internal emergency. Mr. Nariman is an internationally recognized authority on international arbitration. He is one of India's most distinguished constitutional lawyers and has argued several leading cases. He has been awarded the Padma Bhushan way back in '91, the Padma Vibhushan in 2007, and the International Peter Gruber Prize for Justice in 2002. He was nominated member of the Rajya Sabha, the upper house of Parliament of India, for a full term of 6 years, 1999 to 2005. And the third judge, Mr. John Elliott, reputed British journalist in Asia, based in Asia since 1983, author and respected commentator in many magazines. His Riding the Elephant blog began on Fortune magazine's website in April 2007, and he then took it over himself in August 2008. Ideally, he'd like to write his articles and blogs sitting in the Himalayan foothills, but there's too much to be seen and talked about in Delhi and elsewhere for that to be possible. So we are fortunate to have him here with us today. So here we go. Democratic politics is impacting brand India. The toss has been won by Hindu College. So if I can introduce our first speaker today, Mr. Subramanian Swamy. Now, Mr. Swamy is an Indian politician, academic, economist, presently the president of the Janata Party of India. Dr. Manmohan Singh had recently stated that Dr. Swamy was the first to envisage and articulate the need for reforms in India. He has been in the news almost every day and requires no further introduction. Please welcome Dr. Subramanian Swamy. Over to you, sir.
Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Brand India is what makes India attractive as a foreign investment destination. It is also what demonstrates India's ability. We have therefore, because of Brand India, inflow of foreign direct investments and other investments, and outflow of where we have performed, such as software. The bottom line is that India attracts foreigners to invest in India because they can make more profit here, largely because of our skilled and unskilled labor, which is not only good but the cheapest in the world. While they are able to bring their capital at very low interest rates which obtain in their countries. It is therefore quite clear that when Brand India attracts foreigners to India, there is a lack of a level playing field, and it is the duty of democratic politics to ensure that we are not exploited in this branding that takes place. It is the duty of ensuring level playing field that the democratic politics plays. Thus, democratic politics correctly prevented FDI in retail, because Walmart, obtaining capital at 2 to 4% interest rate in their country, in the United States, wanted to enter retail market with no new know-how, and therefore it led to unfair competition because Indian traders had to obtain capital at 12 to 18%. Moreover, foreign countries of the West particularly do not allow free access to our labor, which is not only skilled but the cheapest, and also to agricultural exports, for which we have been fighting in the Doha rounds. This is also Brand India, our capacity to export our labor. We have today what is called as the demographic dividend, which 30 years ago we called as the population problem. Today, democratic politics is working for a quid pro quo. Hence, the democratic politics must impact Brand India, must ensure that the contours of Brand India are such that we ensure that the competition that takes place as a consequence is on a level playing field. We have advantage in labor, and those who want to come to this country have an advantage in capital. And the competition should be fair. And it is this, therefore, why we think that democratic politics must impact Brand India. And it is this, for this reason, that some of the decisions which are taken through democratic politics may not be acceptable to the ideologically committed, but certainly something which in the national interest has to be done. So therefore, I support the motion that democratic politics impacts Brand India. Thank you.
I must congratulate you for setting the stage for keeping well in time. Thank you. We will now have 2 interjections where you will be given a minute each to respond. So over to the other side. Questions? 2 questions. Mr. Swamy.
Well, if I might ask the very first one, if the whole point of this debate is to ensure that democratic politics provides a level playing field between Indian entrepreneurs and foreigners who come into India, shouldn't democratic politics in India be far more concerned with providing a level playing field to different classes of Indians? And how can there be a level playing field for different classes of Indians when we are just informed that 20 years of economic reforms and allowing foreigners to come in has resulted in a doubling of inequality in Indian society? That's my question.
You want me to answer from here? You have a mic. I have a mic, yeah, okay. Well, first of all, the question of what's happening within the country is something which only marginally or indirectly affects branding of India. The branding of India takes place when we demonstrate to the world why we are an attractive destination. And if we feel that those in power are not protecting the national interests of the country or the level playing field, it is only through democratic politics that has to be done. I can understand the questioner's problem because he's associated with the emergency and he's associated with all that politics, where democratic politics has been looked down upon, and now Facebook and Twitters are also in a lot of trouble, and consequently criticism, exposure, transparency is something a bit alien to them. The question therefore is, what is the responsibility of democratic politics? It is to ensure that there is fair play and level playing field.
You have a second interjection?
Second interjection, yeah.
Well, I mean, the opening speaker essentially confined the entire issue of democratic politics to the resisting of FDI in retail. Surely one would have a concept of brand India that goes beyond any one issue. And the question to you, therefore, is, are you not aware of the other ways in which democratic politics... The mic is not working? Is this better? All right. Well, the opening speaker confined his definition of brand India to what makes India an attractive investment destination, confined his discussion of democratic politics to the resistance to FDI in retail. And my question to him is, isn't there more to brand India than merely the attraction of investment? And isn't there more to democratic politics than any one issue? After all, even the saga of FDI in retail hasn't yet played itself out. Democratic politics is not an event, it's a process. And the process is ongoing over a period of time. There might still be a different outcome in months to come.
Well, perhaps my brevity might have derailed you a bit. But the fact of the matter is that I spoke about the branding of India should ensure that we get free access to our labor, just as we are expected to give free access to capital, that our labor is able to go abroad unfettered. So far, all discussions in the World WTO, the question of free movement of labor has been banned as a subject, and it has been held to be something which is contrary to immigration. Similarly, I said about agricultural exports, where Doha rounds this goes on and on. We are the cheapest producer of agricultural products in the world, but we are unable to export because of the barriers that have been erected. The same very people don't want barriers to be erected in India against foreign direct investment, even where we don't need it. So consequently, I have made a complete case, but perhaps I made it very briefly.
Kabir Bedi, international actor, columnist, activist, and now producer. His career has spanned 3 continents, Asia, America, and Europe, in 3 mediums, film, TV, and theatre. Last year, by decree of the President of Italy, Kabir Bedi was officially knighted, the highest-ranking civilian honor of the Italian Republic, and bestowed the title of Cavaliere. Please welcome Kabir Bedi.
Honorable judges, Madam Moderator, distinguished guests, I listened with some amusement and amazement at the first speaker because I failed to see what case he made. It completely eluded me as I sat there waiting for something to pounce on. Let's be clear what this debate is about. This debate is about brand India, not just India, brand India, about democratic politics and brand India. Before I became an actor, I spent 5 years in advertising, and I learned that every product is branded in a unique way to make it appealing for potential customers. Now, who is the customer of brand India? Quite simply, anyone across the world, any entity that we wish to attract to India or towards India for the economic benefit of India. And what is brand India. My friend and fellow Stephanian Amitabh Kant, who was one of the driving forces behind the Incredible India campaign, wrote a book on branding India. And according to him, brand India is a global set of perceptions and associations that now surround the country. Now there's two aspects to this. There's the soft branding and the hard branding. The soft branding is the kind of branding we want to do for tourists and people in general around the world, impressing them with our monuments, our landscapes, our culture, our history, our yoga, our spirituality, and of course, Bollywood films, which amuse and entertain hundreds and thousands of, if not hundreds of millions of people across the world, many of whom are not Indian. Let me tell you, having lived abroad for 20 years, that half of brand India is not impacted by domestic politics in any way whatsoever. So half the battle is won right there. The other half of brand India is the hard-nosed brand India, where we want to attract business to India, businessmen to India, to profit from our huge markets. And therefore, brand India was very brilliantly branded as the fastest growing free market democracy in the world. Now that's a claim that no country, developing or developed, can make even today. That's what makes the appeal of brand India unique. Let me give you a striking example. In 2007, Arun Sareen, the CEO of Vodafone worldwide, made an $11 billion investment in India, in Indian telecom. Lest my opponents think that he's having second thoughts, in July July this year, he invested another $5.5 billion to buy out SR's 33% stake remaining stake in Vodafone India, making him the biggest investor in India. It's important to remember that most of our investors come from democratic countries, and they fully understand the pulls and pressures of domestic politics. In America, President Obama almost had to default on federal payments because of domestic politics. In Europe, Greece, Portugal, Ireland are facing sovereign defaults because of the excesses of spending of domestic politics. So, investors that are looking at India are not concerned by our domestic politics. Their politics are not much better. So what's the real attraction of brand India? Well, they're looking at a market of 1.2 billion people. They're looking at India's managerial talent, its excellence in technology, the success of our industrialists, many of whom are counted among the multinationals of the world, and they're looking at our still impressive growth rate of 7%. That's the enduring strength and appeal of brand India that is not affected by the domestic politics of this country. Therefore, I respectfully submit that on the radar of the world, who are our customers, brand India is not affected by domestic politics. Thank you very much.
Okay, just to remind all, the bell, the silver bell is 4 minutes, the gong is 5 minutes, and the speakers can go up to 5 minutes. So you were well within time. Thank you, Mr. Bedi. 2 interjections from this side of the floor.
Well, I think it's finally given me the permission. I would like to ask Mr. Kabir Bedi,
please,
why and how you said domestic democratic politics have no bearing at all. Because I think you're delinking and giving India an almost schizophrenic persona, which does not sound very convincing. On what basis have you done that? Thank you.
I didn't understand your question, madam.
I'm sorry, but I was trying to tell you that you have delinked India from its image overseas. That's a very limited way of looking at the persona of India. Why have you done that?
Madam, the debate is about brand India. It is not about India in general. It's about democratic politics, not about democracy in general. Democracy is always a huge plus. And that is why we call ourselves the fastest growing free market democracy in the world. That is part of the attraction of Brand India. I'm saying, as far as the motion before the House, that domestic politics does not impact Brand India, because it does not. They are looking at their own countries, and their politics are even worse.
I'm sorry, that didn't sound convincing at all. Thank you.
Mr. Baby, there was a point in your speech when you talked about someone investing in India but understanding that it's a problem, domestic politics don't always let you do what you want. And then you went on to say that domestic politics does not affect Brand India. Were you speaking for the motion or against the motion?
No, sir. My central point is...
You hedged your bets.
No, sir. No, sir. I very clearly say that domestic politics is not a factor when investors are investing in India. That din and noise may be in India's parliament, maybe on India's streets, but when they see the benefits of India, they are not concerned with it. These are people that invest even in China because it gives them profit, because it's a fast-growing economy. Therefore, domestic politics is not a factor in the question of Brand India. That's it. Thank you very much. I just want to add.
Thank you. Okay, so we move on back to the Hindu team. So speaker number 2, Deepak Verma. Deepak is chairman. Well, do give him a hand. Yes. So Deepak is chairman of Sheffield Hayworth India, world-leading financial services executive search firm. Earlier a corporate executive, he held the positions of managing director at Aviva Life Insurance, business director, Global Consumer Bank, Citibank, and executive vice president, Gillette India and South Asia. An MBA from XLRI and a BA honors in history from Hindu. He's a keen practitioner of yoga, an avid golfer, and enjoys traveling. He has won the Mukherjee Memorial and Andrew Memorial in the same year while at Hindu.
Madam Chairman, members of the House, let me make it clear that my speech is not a referendum on whether democracy works or doesn't work. I intend to establish that over 60 years of operating as a functioning democracy, India has successfully established a brand that is consistent, a brand that is distinct, and most important, a brand that is positive. 50 years ago, 30 years ago, we were seen as a country that was fascinating. Maharajas, tigers, grinding poverty, but there was no clear image. I believe we now are well positioned. Brand India, as I see it, is built on an architecture which involves 3 pillars. The pillars, Madam Chairman, are strong economic power. The second pillar is strong soft power. And the third pillar, Madam, is strong tolerance power. Tolerance power, for want of a better word, reflects the ability of India to manage its infinite plurality and diversity. Let me now talk about each one of these. In 1991, the economic managers of our system set us on a path of free enterprise. Liberalization, privatization, globalization. They set us on this path, our politicians. Today, we are one of the largest economies in the world. We are poised in 25 years to become the 3rd largest. In 40 years, we will vie for being the world's largest economy. Our businesses go overseas. They acquire businesses. They acquire icons of British industry. We are world leaders in information technology. We have membership today in every major trading and economic bloc in the world. This is a consequence of the decisions taken by our policy managers. There are many people who say that we could have done more, that our politics of compromise, our politics of accommodation have actually held us back. To them I say that this is the very same set of politicians who ensured by cautious policies that we averted the Asian crisis of the 90s. We have stayed away. We have not been impacted by the collapse of Lehman Brothers, and today we are not in the sorry and shambolic state that many European countries we looked after. Brand India is healthy. That is the impact. The second aspect is soft power. Soft power, for those of you who do not understand the term, was developed by a Harvard academic, Joseph Nye. And it refers to the ability of a country, through its culture, its values, its ideas, to exercise influence on the world stage, to get the world to look at things the way that you want to do. India has enormous soft power. Militarily, and in terms of our size of our economy, we are much smaller than China. But if the truth be known, our culture is far more pervasive. Brand India, our people are known, our food is accepted, our religion is looked at and studied with admiration, our iconic sportsmen are admired. India is able to project its soft power because of its democratic system. Our democratic system, because it is open, allows the free flow of ideas, the free flow of information. We're able to travel abroad. We accept, we give. The world, Madam Chairman, is able to look into the soul of India, and it likes what it sees. The third aspect of Brand India is our ability to manage plurality and diversity. It's a well-known fact that India is home to an incredible variety of languages, cultures. There's incredible ethnicity. We have been home for 4 major religions. Yet we exist, and we do this successfully. Other countries have managed diversity. The US and the UK have managed diversity, but they started at much higher levels of education and economic development than we did. Our record on managing diversity is not perfect, but that is only to be expected given our history. We have the most volatile theocracy in the world on our left. We have flashpoints in Afghanistan and the Middle East. There will be aberrations, but that is what they are. They are aberrations. I must point out that I understand, like everybody else, that democracy is flawed. Every political thinker, from Plato right down to Friedman, has said that democracy has its flaws, and I accept that. We're happy. However, we deal with these problems. Don't throw it out. Deal with it, and that is happening. Brand India is strong. Thank you, madam.
Sir, in ignoring the obvious negative connotations of the word impacting in the motion before the House, aren't you trying to argue for the other side, which is pretty much like running with the hares and hunting with the hounds?
Sir, I must tell you that the proposition as defined is capable of being interpreted either positively or negatively. We may take the position that Brand India impacts the country negatively. We may take the position that Brand India impacts the country positively. I happen to have taken it positively because I believe that the positive connotations of Brand India, that the positive values are far in excess of the negativity.
When you say, when Kabir says running with the hares and running with the hounds, what he means is running with the Hinduites and sticking with the Stephanians. You don't know your own mind. You say that it could be a negative, it could be positive, and whichever side it is, I'm on. That's why it's because of such confused thinking on your side of the road that the chicken had to cross the road.
Sir, I am deeply grateful that you know my mind better than I know my mind. It is an occupational hazard which I believe exists in dealing with eminent people like yourself, and that is clearly happening. I must emphasize again that I do not think you have appreciated that this proposition is capable of being looked at as a duality. And it is my option, and I reiterate that, as to which way I prefer to look at it.
Thank you. So now, over to St. Stephen's, speaker number 2, Vikram Chandra. So, Vikram, give me 2 minutes to introduce you. Is the CEO of NDTV Group, has 19 years of experience in television journalism and known for The Big Fight, which has been one of India's top-rated current affairs shows for more than a decade. He has been one of the pioneers in special programming for the public interest. Vikram has been named the global leader for tomorrow and then a young global leader by the World Economic Forum in Davos. Vikram, over to you.
Madam Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Verma has taken recourse to a lot of semantics. He's chosen to interpret the motion in a particular manner. There could be a positive impact, there could be a negative impact. You've chosen to take refuge in semantics, so let me start by also talking the language of semantics, if you must. For democratic politics to have an impact on brand India, there must be a brand India to start with. There must be a very clear, well-defined brand India. What is a brand? A brand is the defining image of a product, carefully marketed and packaged. What is the defining image of India? For some people, sure, the defining image of India is an economic superpower to be India shining. For others, the defining image is poverty, is Slumdog Millionaire. For some people, the defining image of India is spirituality, is religion. For others, it is chaos and corruption. For the Australians, the defining image of India may well be Sachin Tendulkar scoring his 100th century in a couple of days' time. India, ladies and gentlemen, is not a product to be marketed. India is not a bar of...
India is not a tube of toothpaste. India is not a packet of chips. India is the most fantastically complicated, the most paradoxical country in some ways in the world. India defines any and all labels that you may choose to put upon her. You pick an image that you think is brand India. I will find you another image, the exact opposite, which is equally true for India. So if we must talk semantics, then let me tell you that democratic politics or anything else cannot have an impact on brand India, because there is no such thing as a single brand India. So semantics aside, what are we really here to talk about? We are really here to talk about what most of us understand this notion to be, which is the concept that in some way democratic politics, the way it is being practiced in India, is hurting the image of India, is hurting brand India. And I have to say that when we are talking about brand India in this particular manner, and the way you have defined it, brand India, it is a very narrow, shining India, Davos World Economic Forum type concept of India as an investment destination, something which is used to get foreign investment in and something used to get foreign tourists in. Fine, let's take that narrow definition, if you like, of brand India, and I'll show you that even then the notion must fall. Because in that case, that particular Davos image of brand India, as Kabir said, was built on the concept of the fastest growing free market democracy in the world. Democracy. It was used to paint the image of 1 billion people living together, working together, struggling together, somehow developing their country together, but doing so in conditions of freedom, doing so in conditions of liberty. That is what set India apart from China. That's what that campaign was designed to do. And that's why in the snows of Davos, on the buses of Davos, at the airport of Zurich, that was the slogan that was painted, the fastest growing free market democracy in the world. We are not China. The second thing that I do want to refer to in talking about this is that democratic politics at the end of the day is just a mechanism. And I know we all get very frustrated with it. We get frustrated at the pace of change. We get frustrated at what happens. But at the end of the day,
All that democratic politics is a mechanism by which you can choose your leaders. It says the leaders will be chosen by the people, not at the barrel of a gun, not by murdering their predecessors in a coup. The people will choose their leaders. And whatever those leaders may end up being at the end of the day, some of them are good, some of them are bad, some of them could be efficient, some of them could be inefficient or corrupt. But at the end of the day, as a mechanism for choosing leaders, democracy is still the best single form. What others would you have us do? Dictatorship? North Korea, anybody? Libya? Would you like a theocracy like Saudi Arabia or Iran? Ruled by the Magsaysay Award winners, as some in the Lokpal movement might want? At the end of the day, there is a very clear lesson that has come down from history. That's a lesson of India, and it's a lesson of history. Democracy is still the best form of choosing your leaders. And that is the reason why dictatorships may come, dictatorships may flourish briefly. You may have a Nazi Germany and you may have a China, but at the end of the day, it is the democracies that will thrive. It is the democracies that will endure. So finally, to my friends from the Hindu College, you have very clearly chosen the wrong side of this argument, which is fine. That was a mistake. And you have, of course, long been on the wrong side of the road. And we do understand your pain. We sympathize. We generally do sympathize. But now you are seeking to be on the wrong side of history. And that's unforgivable. Thank you.
Hello. Sir, I noticed that you started off by saying there is no such thing as Brand India. I am deeply distressed that you have trashed the great work that's been done by your colleague, Mr. Amitabh Kant, who has spent so many years projecting Brand India, but it just suggests that, as we always know, there's never any consensus amongst yourselves. You then went on to talk about a brand artificially created to market at Davos. Are you suggesting that Brand India has no integrity?
I don't recall actually using those words ever. All that I said is there is no one Brand India. The Brand India that you're talking about, that Amitabh Kant has very successfully built, the Brand India that Nandan Nilekani worked on, the Brand India that was revealed to the world in Davos 2006, the Brand India that has been used to get investments in or used to get foreign tourists in, is one particular form of Brand India. There are other Brand Indias. There is a spiritual Brand India, there's a religious Brand India, there's a Brand India that Arundhati Roy may believe in, which is that of a fascist police state. There are many Brand Indias. You're choosing is one of them.
Second interjection.
Yeah. Now I know why you are such a successful moderator, because you speak on both sides. You said that there is multiple brands, there's no single brand. The only thing that you didn't answer is, after praising the fact that India has been a democracy, whether this democratic politics has had impact on the multiple brands, if not on the single brand. Please answer that question.
Well, actually, as a matter of fact, it depends on which of the Brand Indias you're looking at. Democratic politics, as Kabir said, may have absolutely no impact on some of the brands that we are talking about. If you go to somebody in the interiors of Africa and their only association with India is an Amitabh Bachchan film, frankly, they probably don't even know whether India is a democracy or not a democracy. So the Brand India that that person is associating with India, democratic politics has got no reference to. There may be a particular Brand India that you're talking about which democratic politics affects, but the others. Let's not restrict ourselves to only one label and one image of India. We're a very complicated country. We're a very diverse country. Let's not have labels on ourselves. Thank you.
Okay, so we go over back to the Hindu team. Speaker number 3, Hardeep Singh Puri. Hardeep is a 73 batch IFS officer who is, I beg your pardon, 74. He's younger than we thought. Yeah. Current permanent representative of India to the United Nations, He's flown all the way here to be with us today. He is also presently Chairman of the United Nations Security Council Counter-Terrorism Committee. I'm sure that will be helpful today. In August 2011, he was the President of the United Nations Security Council. He had done his graduation and post-graduation from Delhi University and worked as a lecturer at St. Stephen's College, Delhi.
Madam Chairperson, democratic politics is how our government, parliament, the opposition parties and the public at large engage in the task of policy making, debate and its implementation. Brand India is a composite concept with a complex matrix which covers our ancient civilization, our culture, Bollywood in all its glory, our information and technology and R&D industries which make Indians look smarter than they actually are, iconic figures like Gandhi, but all these attributes individually and collectively do not critically define brand India. What defines brand India is the fact that India is the world's largest functioning democracy. And without that critical definition, you will get a concept of brand India which is either half-cocked or intellectually difficult to justify. And I want to thank the two speakers speaking for the motion for having, in fact, helped us out from the other side of the floor. Madam Chairperson, democratic politics is brand India. It is democratic politics which provides the space and gives the voice to reconciling the differences between us, regional, linguistic, social and cultural. It is democratic politics which ensures that human rights and fundamental freedoms can be ensured. Now, democratic politics, given as it is, the way we function, cannot be interpreted selectively to say that the democracy is good, but the politicians who are squabbling are no good. Democratic politics impacts on brand India both positively and negatively. It impacts positively when the world sees us as the world's largest democracy with a fiercely independent judiciary, with the rule of law, respect for intellectual property rights. But when major economic policy decisions are delayed, when those decisions are either reversed and there is a paralysis of decision making, yes, brand India does take a hit. Therefore, brand India is impacted negatively by democratic politics. So you cannot selectively interpret democratic politics and brand India to say that there is no impact. To do so would be to prepare a construct which is intellectually flawed. Let me now come to the issue of public debate and non-violent protest. These are central to India. But we are not the only ones fretting about it. The United States, which is a $15 trillion economy, also a large industrial democracy, they're worried about the gridlock in the US Congress, the Occupy Wall Street protests. When a protest movement against corruption takes place, and let me remind you, corruption is not specific to any country, to any sub-region or region, the government of the day takes a little bit of a brand beating. But at the end of the day, when we are able to correct that through a process of self-cleansing, then brand India improves. In other words, let's not be defensive about any of these protest movements. They are integral to the way we conduct business. And somebody talked about China and democracy. The fundamental difference between brand India and brand China is we are an open, functioning democracy. China may grow a few percentage points faster, as a visiting former head of state tried to suggest here, speaking for a rival newspaper's so-called summit meeting, that if only India were a little less of a democracy, we could grow a few inches faster. First of all, there is no way in which we can shut off the tap and shut off a few parts of democracy. We tried it once and it didn't work. Similarly, unless, as Mr. Swamy said initially, unless you have a full debate on different economic policy issues, and you are able to reconcile the different competing interests, social and economic, democratic politics will be richer only when you are able to reconcile those interests. So my submission, Madam Chairperson, very clearly is democratic politics impacts brand India both positively and negatively. Even if you choose to select a narrower definition of brand India by defining it as brand equity, and that was the intellectual absurdity which was being committed by some of our colleagues. Brand India is not only investment and attracting foreign technology and investment. Brand India is much more than that. If it were anything else, you could then compare it to China. Thank you very much, ma'am. I think the proposition stands established.
Is it working? Is it working well? Hello. Would the Honorable Speaker kindly clarify whether it was because he studied at Hindu and taught at St. Stephen's that he's straddling both sides of the fence?
You know, on that, in that particular year, there was perhaps a deficiency in the teaching faculty of St. Stephen's College, and I had to, and I had to most reluctant, and I had to most reluctantly give up an offer of a lecturership in Hindu college, which I would have infinitely preferred. But you know, since this is a friendly setting, I accepted that offer. No, you know, to repeat across the road, I'm surprised they didn't mention the minced cutlets. Those were the only positive attribute there in the canteen. But in our time, the St. Stephen's College Union used to be called the St. Stephen's College Union Society, you know, because, you know, to take on the establishment, to take a position was found very difficult because in this highly establishment-oriented hierarchical structure that we had in Mission College then. That's what it was called, Mission College.
Okay. Mr. Puri, if I could just ask you, a lot of effort is being made in recent days, and you would know about it, the Look East policy. And we are really working very hard to try and sell the brand of India in countries in Eastern Asia as the land where the Buddha came from. And that the Buddhist circuit is the reason why you should really come to India. And that's the most important brand of India in those countries. How exactly does democratic politics affect that?
You know,
democracy was
first of all, I should like to remind the Honorable Speaker when he referred to Africa during his presentation and spoke about no one in Africa knowing brand India. I should have said that the iconic figure, Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, is how Africa looks at the brand India. Insofar as the Buddha is concerned, you know, got enlightenment here, the message spread. But as I said, brand India is a complex matrix. It has civilization, culture, Ayurveda, yoga, and it has Buddha and Gandhi in it. But as I said, the central defining feature is democracy. It's the democratic politics. And brand India gains in Japan and elsewhere through the Buddhism. But that is not the defining feature. The centrally defining feature of brand India is democratic politics, good or bad, with or without our honorable members of parliament. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. So now we go to speaker number 3 from St. Stephen's, Shashi Tharoor. Now, Shashi is an author, United Nations peacekeeper, refugee worker, human rights activist, a former Minister of State for External Affairs, and now an elected member of the Indian Parliament from Thiruvananthapuram constituency in Kerala. He is an award-winning author of 12 books, including the great Indian novel. In college, he founded the Quiz Club, revived the Woodhouse Society, and was elected president of the Union.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, distinguished judges, members of the House. Being the 6th speaker after this very rich and lively debate, Makes me feel rather like Elizabeth Taylor's sixth husband. I kind of know what's expected of me, but I'm not sure how to do it very differently. But I'll try. I'll try. I mean, I must say that hearing people like Deepak Verma and Hardeep Puri essentially say this motion can be both positive and negative reminded me of a line I once heard at Delhi University. We're trying here to be logical, not tautological. So, but very simply, to reduce the debate to its essentials. What is a brand? It's obviously, as the marketing people tell us, a symbol that embodies all the key information about a product or a service. So when a brand is mentioned, it carries with it a whole series of associations in people's minds and expectations of how the brand will perform. But ultimately, the only real guarantee of a brand's worth is the actual performance of the product or the service that it stands for. If the brand delivers what it promises, it becomes a great asset in itself. So what's Brand India? We've heard lots of definitions of it. A country isn't a soft drink or a cigarette, but its name can conjure up certain associations. That's why our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehru, insisted on holding on to the name India in the Constitution in the face of nativist reassertions for Bharat, right? Because he felt that there was a brand that had been developed, a fabled land, India, the jewel in the crown of the British Raj, that he wanted to hold on to, even if he didn't use the word brand. Now, that then got transformed into the brand of Mahatma Gandhi, as we've been reminded. It then got tarnished, perhaps, by associations with poverty and various setbacks. It's now been revived again. And we've heard about the Davos slogan, fastest growing free market democracy. We've heard of the Stephanian Amitabh Khan slogan, Incredible India. All of this summarizes various aspects of what we want people to think of when they hear the word India. I think a fundamental part of this is the unparalleled diversity of India, the geographical diversity, the ethnic, religious, linguistic diversity, and this range of people, even though they come from colleges on both sides of a certain road, living side by side in relative harmony. That is part of Brand India. And Brand India's importance lies, frankly, in the fact that India's claims to any importance in the world of the 21st century lie in those aspects and products of our society and culture that are attractive to people elsewhere in the world. So that when we speak of soft power, as one speaker has already done, it's a right thing to do because we know that hard power can carry the odium of global public disapproval, whereas in the information era, our brand strength is indeed our soft power. That today's world is not about who has the bigger army. It's not the bigger army that wins. It's the country that tells a better story that wins. And what we've seen in the stories, even heard from the wrong side of the motion, have been stories that have strengthened the whole notion of what India is all about. A society with a free press, a thriving mass media. India can tell stories about itself that, frankly, attract just as we're being ourselves. And democratic politics is a fundamental part of that story. Even Anna Hazare, though he wasn't mentioned by name, this non-violent protest that was alluded to is part of the story of democratic politics in India and part of India being the land where public opinion is expressed in all sorts of ways and heeded in our system. See, Brand India is created partly by the government and partly despite the government, partly by deliberate action, partly by accident. So it's not just what we can consciously portray that's Brand India. It's rather how others see what we are, who we are as a nation. In fact, democratic politics is integral to that. I was traveling in the Arab world in 2004 when our then general election results gave us a party winning the election, headed by a woman of Catholic background and Italian descent, who then made way for a Sikh gentleman to be sworn in by a Muslim president in a country 81% Hindu. And the astonishment and admiration of the Arabs I spoke to demonstrated to me that democratic politics is so fundamentally a part of Brand India that we can't speak of it impacting it as if it's an external or extraneous element. In fact, democratic politics can't affect Brand India, can't impact Brand India because it is part of Brand India. Undemocratic politics can affect Brand India. You have riots in Gujarat, or you have a member of the other side writing an article in the newspapers threatening to disenfranchise all of India's Muslims. That kind of undemocratic politics can affect Brand India. But ultimately, whatever happens in our politics, even if it's sometimes dysfunctional, the fact is the strength of brand India remains that we understand that you can overcome differences of caste, creed, color, culture, cuisine, custom, costume, conviction, and still rally around a consensus in our democratic politics. And that's the consensus that in a diverse democracy like ours, you don't really need to agree all the time, so long as you agree on the ground rules of how you will disagree. That is the strength of Brand India. This debate is a reflection of that strength, and therefore I submit to you, you cannot have an extraneous element as democratic politics. It is central to what Brand India is all about, and therefore it does not impact Brand India. Thank you.
You seem to be more familiar with the UN Charter than the Indian Constitution. Because the Indian Constitution, the first line says, India, that is Bharat. So
both are there.
So don't say that Jawaharlal Nehru adopted India and rejected Bharat.
I didn't say that.
You said that because...
I said he held on to the term India.
Secondly, I don't know whether you have the permission to state the religion of your leader, because I know one ambassador who's present here who got into a lot of trouble for stating the religion.
All right, first on the question.
Now I come to my question.
All right.
This is only to point out that Stephanians are generally split personality. They do not know whether they belong to this country or still part of the British Empire. Now, question is, you spoke eloquently about the branding of India, but you did not explain whether democratic politics impacts or doesn't impact. Could you tell us in one word, yes or no?
The interjection was a rather lengthy one. Points. First, as far as the question of what Nehruji wanted, the proposal in the Constituent Assembly was just to call India Bharat. He insisted that it should be India that is Bharat because he wanted to hold on to the brand of India. So both terms are used in the Constitution, and I'm indeed familiar with the Constituent Assembly debates from which this emerged. On the question of anyone's religion, I didn't speak of anyone's religion, I said of a Catholic background and Italian descent. A person's background, I don't think, can be contested. Third, on your specific, your final query, which was yes or no to, whether yes. My entire point is that you cannot have a part of something impacting the whole. It's like saying that your hand impacts your body. It's a part of your body. Democratic politics is a part of Brand India. It cannot impact Brand India any more than your hand can impact your face. So perhaps that wouldn't be such a bad idea.
The proposition before this House is, this House believes democratic politics impacts Brand India. Do you think that by making out a case that Brand India impacts democratic politics, you can get out of the issue of establishing, again, a question, yes or no?
I've made it amply clear that because indeed Brand India has as an integral part of it the entire practice of democratic politics in our country, that to speak of democratic politics in the motion as if it is something extraneous like a meteorite impacting the earth, democratic politics impacting Brand India, makes no sense as a proposition.
I see we are well into this, and now into our fourth speaker. So I shall ask Dr. Tuk-Tuk Ghosh Kumar to take the floor shortly. She needs a bigger hand than that. Now, Dr. Ghosh Kumar is a member of the IAS and is currently posted as Principal Secretary, Women and Child Development and Social Welfare Department, Government of West Bengal, Kolkata. During the 14th Lok Sabha, she was Principal Secretary to Speaker, Lok Sabha, Somnath Chatterjee. Her academic specialization is in ancient Indian history. She won the Mukherjee Memorial Debating Trophy while student of Hindu College, was a lecturer at Hindu too for a brief while. Dr. Ghosh Kumar, over to you.
Thank you, Madam Moderator. Good evening, Namaskar, ladies and gentlemen. I know I am the least known amongst the luminaries in this hall, but well, that's the way it is. The Aam lady, the citizen of the country, Aam Janta, okay? So I think I represent the Aam person of the country, and I would like to put across what to me is brand India. It's not what is seen outside the borders of this country. It's not about export, import, investment. It is not. It is what India is all about, what the citizen views as India. We've spent a lot of time trying to understand what is brand India. Some say it could be this, some say it could be something else. I would say the answer lies in the constitution of our country, where we, the people, have given unto ourselves a secular, socialist democracy which ensures justice, economic, political, liberty, equality, and fraternity. That, ladies and gentlemen, and members of the team from St. Stephen's College, is brand India. And it's quite sad that we are spending so much of time and energy trying to zero in on that very basic point which affects the daily lives of our citizens, billion plus. We have gotten into the habit of ordinarizing our citizens by calling them ordinary person on the street, the common man. And the politicians feel very virtuous when they think they spare a thought for the Aam Aadmi, for those who are distressed, for those who are deprived, for those who are shoshit. And when they think of bills like food security, right to education, right to information, they think they are doing a great job. But do they not realize that all these are already part of brand India, enshrined, encrypted in the Constitution of India, which we, the sovereign people, have given to ourselves? We are having this great agitation, Team Anna insisting CBI ho, CBI na ho, todi jaye, nahi todi jaye, corruption end ho ya na ho. That's not it. Is that one institution going to take care of this complex problem? Is this one bill of food security going to ensure a square meal to the poorest citizen of the country? Why have we not been able to do it? Why have the elected representatives who can justifiably claim to be the voice of the millions, the dumb millions, not been able to effect any change in the past 60 years? Why do we still have to compare ourselves with sub-Saharan Africa? That, to me, is how our democratic politics is impacting brand India. Somewhere down the road, ladies and gentlemen, we have failed ourselves. And that is how brand India is getting impacted by the functioning of democratic politics, Indian style. Desi style of democratic politics is impacting brand India. We should have been number one on the world stage today. Everybody said we are the largest functioning, vibrant democracy in the whole world. But does anybody hold us up and say you are the best? You are the model for the entire world as how a democracy should be run? No. It is not quoted as the best example of a functioning, vibrant democracy. We still quote good old Westminster model. We still quote American system. But where is our performance? Why are we still underperforming? Why are we letting ourselves down? That is what not only the elected netas and what is the female equivalent? Anyway, I'm sorry, Netri, yes, have to answer for. But it is our collective failure, and we have to again rededicate ourselves to the Constitution, to the ideals enshrined in the Constitution. Only then will brand India be a success as it is meant to be and improve the lives of its citizens in a very, very real sense of the word. Thank you very much.
Given the motion that domestic politics is impacting brand India, don't you think it was fundamentally dishonest of your team to try and ignore the obvious negative connotation within the context of this motion to try and argue on both sides of it?
I'm sorry, Mr. Bedi, I'm not here to answer for others. If you have any question directed to what I said, I would like to answer that.
I did believe you're a member of the team.
Well, I'd let that pass.
I mean, I'd made the point, which I believe will be sustained by those who know what a concept of a brand is, that the performance of the brand is far more important than what it claims to be. You have read 2 lines from the Constitution and said that's the brand. But the brand is actually how the Constitution works in practice. And it seems to me that you've missed that. You've essentially made the point, this is what our Constitution says, we failed to live up to it because of our democratic politics. But that is precisely what the brand is. Your brand is not just an advertising slogan or 2 lines from a document. It is how it functions, how it performs, what people expect from it. The question is, how do you reconcile that?
Mr. Tharoor, I am very disappointed to hear you say that I have read 2 lines of the Constitution. That is certainly not the case, and I object to that. No, you said read, and that is incorrect. Please withdraw that statement. And secondly...
You cited or quoted...
No, I did not quote, and I did not read 2 lines of the Constitution, Mr. Tharoor. And you are saying exactly what I said. I don't find any difference in what I said and what you're trying to say now. Yeah, you're not able to make your point, Mr. Tharoor. I am not able to understand what you're trying to get at.
Okay.
I think I'll pass at this point because as...
Shashi, that's it.
Oh, that was it? Kabir counted?
Well, Kabir asked and was answered, and you've asked. So, okay. So now it's speaker number 4 over at Stephens. No guessing who we're waiting for here. Mr. Mani Shankar Iyer. Yeah. Diplomat, journalist, writer, political and social worker. He is a special invitee to the Congress Working Committee and a chairman of both the party's political training department and the Department of Policy Planning and Coordination. His special interests include grassroots democracy, Indian foreign policy, particularly with India's neighboring countries, and West Asia and nuclear disarmament. Over to you, Mr. Iyer.
Madam Moderator and friends, I think our first speaker, Kabir Bedi, got it completely right when he said that a brand is a brand only if it is unique to that product. And as our second speaker, Vikram Chandra, said, India is not a bar of soap. It is a country diverse in every way, but unique in that every citizen is a citizen of a democracy. And so the only brand India is democratic India. For we are the only country in the world that came to liberation. There are about 150 of them since 1947, to have translated and sustained independence for the country into freedom for its people. And that is why Tuk Tuk Kumar, I'm afraid, is completely wrong in asking, in suggesting that democratic politics and people like Shashi and I only impact adversely on brand India. For even if we do, I cannot see that the 3 dictators I've served under would have done any better. I, in the Foreign Service, had the unique experience of spending a year in Hanoi under the dictatorship of Ho Chi Minh, and then 2 years in Iraq under the dictatorship of Saddam Hussein, and then 3 years in Pakistan under the dictatorship of Ziaul Haq. It's left me a Democrat for life. And that is why I only find in our democracy an expression that can apply to all of India. For there is one vote for everyone, and no more than one vote for anyone. But in every other respect, especially in the economic dimension, a few have many notes, and most have almost no notes. There cannot be a brand India, there can be a brand Ambani, but I cannot see a brand India which is uniquely counted in terms of the number of private Indian aircraft that are parked at Davos. Ours is a country where, yes, there are dozens of Indian aircraft privately owned which are parked at Davos, but India is also the country where 80% of our people live on less than 20 rupees a day, where 47% of our children under 5 suffer from severe to moderate malnutrition, where we have one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world, matched only by one of the highest maternal mortality rates in the world. Our people are so hungry that according to the FAO, we add more hungry people to the world's hungry people than the rest of the world put together. Therefore, please do not equate brand India with a private mansion of 27 floors. There is more to India in the economic sphere than any single brand can encompass. And merely because there are some foreigners who like to pretend that we are a prosperous country because there is a sliver of prosperous Indians whose market they have wished to come to exploit, it is to fall into the trap of believing that the brand India touted at Davos is truly brand India. There can be no one economic brand, but there can be one national brand. And that national brand is democratic India. So we are now faced with a proposition that democratic India is impacting on brand India. I find the proposition to be meaningless or absurd. I can only think of its making any meaning across the road, where they don't give much. The proposition is meaningless because how can we debate an issue on which you say it doesn't matter whether it impacts positively or impacts negatively, it impacts and therefore I won. Now either that's a trite remark or it's a meaningless remark. And if it is trite, it's as trite as saying, I am from Hindu because I am from Hindu, and you are from St. Stephen's because you are from St. Stephen's. Now this is the kind of subject or interpretation which perhaps would pass muster in Hindu college, but I'm afraid it will not pass muster over mince cutlets in the St. Stephen's College Cafe. Therefore, I am against the motion.
I think this. Well, I would like to ask you a delicate question. Does corruption impact on the brand India? And if so, how?
Of course, corruption impacts on brand India, and it impacts negatively. Now, to ask this question, does corruption impact on India, and then say it could be done negatively, it could be done positively, is to demonstrate your origins in Hindu college. We have rendered the other side completely naked, because as a colonial couplet went, a funny little man is the Hindu, for clothes he makes his skin do. And so we've left them naked in their argument. We've won. Thank you very much.
Mr. Iyer, you've already declared yourself a winner. You've declared us naked, but you've also said it's been very, very meaningless. So where does it get you? You said the whole exercise was really meaningless. So where does it get you?
I haven't declared myself a winner today. I declared myself a winner when Hindu college wouldn't admit me, and I had to go across the road to Cincinnati.
Well, that brings us to the end of a scintillating discussion and some great repartee. We will now leave the judges to make their choice, and while that is happening, we have some time for audience participation. So I do hope you have some questions, and what I would ask you to do is to put your hands up and make sure you direct the question ideally to a person, because that would make it easier for the answers to be coming. We also have a number of questions that have come to us off the Twitter feed, and I would like to maybe start with that while you're getting your questions together. So, starting with a question from those who said yes.
I'm sure she won't miss me.
Why is it that democracy has become the sole basis of corruption and lawlessness, which has no doubt impacted brand India? So I'll repeat that. Why is it that democracy has become the sole basis of corruption and lawlessness, and that which has no doubt impacted brand India? Yeah.
Corruption is not the monopoly of any political system. Corruption is not the monopoly of any political system, any country, any sub-region or region. It is endemic everywhere. Now for the honorable gentleman to, or an honorable person to inquire, why has democracy allows corruption, but democracy also has inbuilt systems for self-cleansing, and when you are able to correct that, as I said, the government of the day may look a little low at that point of time, but the brand gains by the self-cleaning, and I would much rather have democracy dealing with corruption rather than totalitarian societies where you can you can lock up your opponent and bring sodomy charges against him after he appears on the cover of Time magazine.
And a question for those who said no of Twitter. Why do we reduce our definition of brand India to economic boom? Is democracy itself not our great USP, thus our prime brand? But don't forget, some of these questions have come before they witnessed the debate. So if you want to reaffirm something.
May I say that he's a Daniel come to judgment. He's absolutely right, and I suspect that he's from St. Stephen's.
That is more or less exactly what we spent our time saying, that there is more than one brand India. And as Shashi would add, that's sort of paraphrasing out.
No, the question clearly must have come before they'd heard all our arguments, that in fact democracy is integral to the whole idea of brand India. So no point flogging that horse again.
All right, so audience, I see hands up. Can we start? Have you got mics there? Yeah. So where are the mics right now? That might help. So let's go with the one in front right now. If you could introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Anu Bhargav, and I'd like to direct my question to Mr. Kabir
And
Bedi.
which college?
I come from Hindu College. I was fortunate to go there.
That's your only claim to fame tonight. Which college?
Hindu College. You very articulately, divorced and delineated democratic politics from brand India. And you gave an example of Vodafone and their investment strategy in the country. My question to you is that if there is absolutely no link between both, then why over the past 4 to 5, 6 months is our currency the worst performing, our Sensex the worst performer among the BRICS country grouping? And if you believe that's an aberration and not an effect of democratic politics, what is your justification for that?
You know, when I hear the Hindu team, I'm inspired to take my inspiration from Art Buck and change things to say, debating has changed of late, which makes me peaked and sad. No longer can I separate the good lies from the bad. The basic issue, as far as all the outflows that are going out in the stock market that's falling, the rupee that's falling, none of that is a result of domestic politics. It's all due to the economic situation worldwide. It's an economic issue, not a political issue. Thank you.
Okay. We'll take this question from the front again.
Good evening. My name is Tanuj Kumar, and my question is to Mr. Shashi Tharoor.
Which college?
No, I'm on a gap year from Doon School.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, go ahead.
Mr. Tharoor, you said that democracy is an intrinsic part of brand. So isn't it all the more reason that it can impact brand India?
My point is you can't make a distinction between brand India and democratic politics, because democratic politics is integral to what brand India is all about. So the notion of an impact is something from the outside that impacts something else. And though the proposition, as you know, was argued on both sides, where they said positive impact, negative impact, everything is fine, the problem really with that argument is, it's like saying, you know, the sun affects the weather. Of course we know the sun affects the weather. The question is it positive? Is it negative? What kind of impact? Is it, if the sun is part of the weather, and there is no weather without the sun or whatever, then you have a different case. So what I was arguing very simply was that democratic politics is so much a part of what brand India is all about, that whatever happens in democracy, good or bad, confirms what the world expects of our brand. In other words, let's say we have extremely successful, effective politics that does wonderful things in the country. That's part of our brand, it's India being a democracy. If our democratic politics turns dysfunctional, if we have people out in the streets trying to make laws in the Ram Leela Maidan, whatever, that too reaffirms the brand of India as a democracy. It shows another side of it. So my point is, it's very much part of what we're trying to say here.
Thank you.
Okay. If we can take a question right on the middle of the left there, just behind you. The mic, just move a little back, yeah. Yeah, you, the one closest to the mic, yeah.
I'm currently studying at Hindu College, Devang Sibil. My question is directed to Mr. Chandra. I'm a huge fan, sir. You speak really well, and you did today too. So the first part of your speech focused on proving how there is no such thing as brand India. And if I'm correct, after the first interjection, which was directed to you, your answer was that there are multiple brand Indias and there is no one brand India. So sir, in a span of 5+ minutes, you switched from saying that there is no brand India to going to the point that there are multiple brand Indias. So how can you be contradicting yourself? The whole purpose of a debate is to have a clear stand.
Well, you know, Frank, as Kabir said very clearly, you're right, you should have told that to your college, because they were contradicting each other all the way through the entire debate. No, what I actually said was that there is no such thing as one brand India. I said that right at the start as well. There is no such thing as a distinct, unique image of India that defines India. It doesn't exist. For different people in different parts of the world, depending on who they are, where they are, how they are, they will have a different defining image of India, which for them can become brand India. And the brand India that we've been really talking about here from the point of view of getting investment in or getting tourists in is only one possible definition of what a brand India can be.
There was a question here.
My name is Vikram Bari. I'm from Hindu College. My question is back to Mr. Vikram Chandra. You said at Davos we were doing this and there was brand India being promoted. Now, had not democracy allowed Indian media to say what it did say about branding India, it might not have been possible. So, like the Hindu team pointed out, that the government or democracy which lets you even say that there is brand India. So how can you de-alienate democracy from brand India?
Who's de-alienating? In fact, I spend a lot of my time saying that democracy is still the best form of government which there is. Who wants any other form of government? What is the price that you're willing to pay for liberty? What's the price you're willing to pay for freedom? So that's very much part of what we said, that even in that narrow confine of that one definition of brand India, which is getting investment and the rest of it is, democracy in that particular context does not hurt because it helps. I said on that one narrow definition.
All right. I'm afraid we have to wind up now, so thank you for that. I wish we could take more questions, but we do need to move on for the rest of the evening. So over to Gitanjali.
Our request, Mr. K.M. Matthew, Bursar, St. Stephen's College, to read out a message from the principal, Reverend Valsan Thampo.
I stand here on behalf of the principal of St. Stephen's College, Reverend Dr. Valsan Thampo, who had to be away from the city to attend to some very urgent work back home, which has been postponed for quite some years since he took over as the principal of St. Stephen's College. But I bring with me the message which he had prepared for this occasion, and let me read it out. Our two institutions share a history in which not long ago rivalry did not breed enmity. Competition was to us like iron sharpening iron. It brought out the best on both sides. So the Hindu-Stephens encounters of the 60s, 70s, 80s became a heady celebration. We threw our best at each other, and today we love each other because such a thing became possible at all. There never was, and alas, there never will be, anything like Stephen's Hindu rivalry in the annals of Delhi University. I'm happy to endorse the Titan Cup series offered by our two great institutions. St. Stephen's believes in debate. It is one of the most lively and vibrant strands in the variegated tapestry of our tradition. It's no accident that you can distinguish a Stephenian by the way he speaks. Style is the man, I say. Debate and humor have been traditionally the distinctive hallmarks of Lal Sitara. Both have, alas, also esoteric flavors. What is esoteric could be offensive outside its charmed circle. Hence, it is that nuggets of Stephenian humor, Shashi Tharoor's cattle class, and flashes of Stephenian oratory, Manishankar Iyer's silo, at times unnerve the uninitiated. But the Hinduites of yesteryears are the initiated. I'm confident hence that the Titan Cup will deliver and won't need any cesarean section. The high art of debating appears to have fallen on evil days. We debate because we belong together. If so, we need to listen to each other. Listening, not less than speaking, comprise the richness of life. We rejoice in every opportunity to listen to each other because we cherish each other. This expansive kinship is also the soul of a democratic culture. Fostering a sense of holding and belonging together is the essence of democracy. That being the case, I wish the Titan series inaugurated today, stamped as it is with our faith in the culture of debate and democracy, develops into a sustained symbolic message to the nation at large. But the venue of this event I do not endorse. It would have been far more worthwhile for this event to happen in either of the two colleges. I hope very sincerely that at its next edition this debate will stage a homecoming. So 3 cheers to Hindu College and an equal number of cheers to St. Stephen's College. May the spirit of wholesome debate bring out two institutions closer together to the greater glory of God, which is the motto of St. Stephen's. Thank you.
Thank you for that message, sir. Now I would like to invite our Chief Judge, Mr. Fali S. Nariman, to kindly come to the stage and summarize the judges' views and announce the winners.
We must keep you in some suspense. We'd love to say that neither side wins, but that brand India wins. But we have to choose. It was a remarkable performance, I must say, by all these fine human beings, invigorating good fun, great humor. And if you ask me, here is the intellect of India. This is brand India, so give them a big hand. But seriously, 1 or 2 points. You must say it gently, persuasively. There was, in our unanimous view, too much time spent on brand and too little on democracy. I wish a little more, we wish a little more time was spent on democracy, because if we don't instill these thoughts in the younger generation, and we are 65% under the age of 35 here in our country, then there's going to be a great deal of problems. It was fascinating to hear on both sides about brand India in democratic India, as they like to call it. What would it have been like in autocratic India? Nobody ventured a guess. Because brand India, you must remember, and you must never forget your history, took a break in those couple of years, in our 60+ years, between June 75 to March 77. And all of us owe it a duty to young India that we should never forget that. As a matter of fact, the most fitting comment on the events of 26th of June 1975 was to be found in the Bombay issue of the Times of India of June 27th, Times of India, who has sponsored this. It was not in the editorial columns, it was not in the news columns, it was in all places in the obituary. Under deaths there was a reference to a Mr. D-ocracy, D''ocracy, and for those who could not spell, his initials were given, D-E-M, Mr. D''ocracy, D-E-M, son of L.I. Bertie and T. Ruth, brother of faith, hope and justice, expired on 26 June 1975. That's all it says. You must never forget that. The censors were aghast. They never thought of superintending the death columns. The contributor was never discovered. The management started an investigation into this lapse which became the talk of the town, but how it ended no one knows. I like to think that it was the still small voice of the people that spoke defiantly before being silenced. With a few exceptions, that voice was not heard till March 1977, not heard in many of the great institutions of our democracy. It was in the third week of March that Mr. D''ocracy was resurrected from the dead, doctored back to life by members of a political party, most of whose leaders had only just been released from jail. Think of it, ladies and gentlemen. It is because of them that we can have these debates so freely. It is because of them that our press today is what it is. Our media is what it is. And Vikram Chandra can say exactly what he likes on television because of that. It is a great triumph, actually, of democracy that we are witnessing today. And that is why we'd like to congratulate all our participants here for an excellent performance. There is just one thing, that judges are unanimous in their conclusion that Manishankar Iyer is understandably incorrigible. And Subramanian Swamy is politically intractable. So now I suppose we'll have to announce it. We can't keep it pending anymore. Oh, I've forgotten what it was. Yes. For the more eloquent, the more coherent presentation and for their content, we award the prize to St. Stephen's. Now you know why when you fellows criticize what goes on in Parliament and then say it very solemnly that these fellows don't work, they only come and make a lot of noise. And that's exactly what you did. The Palm d'Or, or the individual prize, goes to Deepak Verma. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, sir. I now request the organizers, Mr. Vijay Chibber, Mr. Amitabh Kant, and Mr. Bobby Keval Ramani, to come up on the dais and in turn to welcome Shri Lalit Bhasin, Chairman, Shri K.K. Mehra and Shri Sunil Dev, Co-Chairman of the Joint Events Committee, onto the stage as well. Can everybody manage to come here? Maybe request the speakers to please go down into the audience. Thank you. And if we are ready on the stage, I now have great pleasure in calling upon our chief guest, Mr. Salman Khurshid, Honorable Union Law Minister, accompanied by Mr. Ravi Dhariwal, CEO of the Times of India Group, to kindly come up onto the dais and give away the Titans Cup. So can I invite the winning team to come and accept the Titans Cup? Thank you very much. I now have the privilege of inviting our guest of honor, the Chief Election Commissioner of India, Dr. S.Y. Qureshi, to please come up to the dais and give away the prize for the best speaker. Could Deepak please come onto the stage? Mr. Deepak Verma. Thank you very much, sir. I now request Mr. Rahul Johri, Senior Vice President and General Manager, South Asia, Discovery Networks Asia Pacific, to kindly present mementos to the judges. Sir, Mr. Fali S. Nariman, would you please come to the stage? Okay. A memento for Ms. Meera Shankar. And a memento for Mr. John Elliott. And not to be forgotten, a memento for our most able moderator, Ms. Naina Lal Kidwai.